Playing champions that have the least steep mastery curves is the absolute best way to climb low elo the fastest. Now, what does this mean exactly? Let's break it down. Take a look at this graph released by Riot themselves, showing the mastery curves of certain champions. This graph tracks the win rate of a champion based on the number of games played. Looking at Qiyana, we can see players who first time her win only 33% of the time, and it takes upwards of 30 to 40 games just to reach a 50% win rate. On the flip side, new Mordekaiser players are winning their first game 49% of the time and spike to 56% with just 20 games. From this data, we can derive that Qiyana is not an optimal champ for the lower ranks, as she takes too many games to even start seeing decent results. Mord, however, is the perfect example of a low elo god, as he not only wins at a good rate when you first pick him up, but his win rate spikes hard with very few games played. This is the kind of analysis that goes into these videos, and with that said, we are excited to share with you guys the 3 best low elo champions for every single role. But before we get into it, be sure to check out SkillCapped if you want to truly get better at League of Legends. We're the only service that offers a money-back guarantee if you don't climb at least 5 divisions while actively using our service. We do this because our service really does work, and if it doesn't work for you, you shouldn't pay. Learn more at the end of this video or click the link in the description below. Based on the introduction, our first top lane selection should come as no surprise, as Mordekaiser takes home a spot in the top 3. Mordekaiser is the perfect champion for low elo because it takes very little skill to pick him up, but there are still lots of ways to improve and see even greater results as you learn more about the champ. Once you hit level 6, Mord becomes this raid boss that can stat check most top laners and annihilate the 1v1. On top of this, Mordekaiser's ultimate allows for him to play so much more aggro with a lead, as turning 1v2s becomes effortless for the champ. You actually want the enemy jungler to gank when you have ult because it draws pressure away from the rest of the map, and you can pick up a free double kill at the same time. In the lower ranks, players won't really respect how strong Mord can be with his ultimate available, which will lead you to gaining advantages very often. The core build for Mordekaiser is a Riftmaker Rush into Rylai's 2nd and Demonic Embrace 3rd. Runes are Conqueror with Triumph, Tenacity, and Last Stand, followed by Second Wind and Revitalize for secondaries. The boss of low elo is none other than Sett. Sett's kit is pretty easy to learn, as the brunt of his damage comes from right-clicking with Q. At the same time, there are so many ways to level up your play with Sett, eventually pulling off W flash predictions to finish off kills, or finding the perfect multi-man ult angle in a teamfight. Like Mordekaiser, Sett is another champion who thrives in those chaotic skirmishes that happen so often in the lower ranks. Sett can very easily single out a target with his E and ultimate CC, and then once he's killed the first target, he turns with a massive shield from W to overcome a second opponent. In the lower ranks, it's very beneficial for you to play a top lane champion who can easily extend an advantage, and Sett can do just that. So much of Sett's damage is point and click from his Q and R, and if you combo correctly, it's really not difficult to land his E either. Vice versa with someone like Aatrox, it's very unlikely you can just walk up to the enemy and auto them to death even if you're fed. You still have to hit Aatrox's Q to be consistently effective, which adds unnecessary risk you don't need to be taking. The build for Sett is a Blade of the Ruined King Rush into Stridebreaker 2nd and Titanic Hydra 3rd. Conqueror is the most popular keystone for Sett, but definitely look to try out Lethal Tempo if you haven't already. Lethal is super potent in melee matchups where you can take extended trades early in lane and the enemy will not expect its power at all. The one thing our previous 2 top lane recommendations were lacking was reliable engage power, so if you want to be the one initiating teamfights, look no further than Sion. To be clear right off the bat, this is going to be Bruiser Sion and not Lethality Sion. Lethality Sion may look super cool, but in reality it's not as consistently powerful game in and game out as Bruiser is. Bruiser works extremely well for the lower ranks because the damage, although not as high as Lethality, is still very respectable, while you can also tank for ages, making the setup much more forgiving. We really like Sion in the top 3 because of his ability to carry from so many different avenues. In the lower elos, players will constantly be out of position, starting fights all the time, and Sion can punish this better than most. With the majority of top laners, as they shove out a side lane, they can either walk all the way over to mid to join their team, or wait for the next wave to arrive. With Sion, he not only has immaculate tower-taking power from Hullbreaker, but his ability to rotate and collapse on a fight is incredibly strong with R. Simply by forcing the enemy to match you in the side lane and then ulting into mid to make it a 5v4 can easily win you countless games on Sion. For the rune page, pick up Grasp with Demolish, Conditioning, and Overgrowth. Optimal secondaries are Dematerializer and Approach Velocity. One of the most broken junglers in general right now, and even more devastating for low elo, is Bel'Veth. Bel'Veth is an incredibly strong low elo jungler because she scales extremely well. What puts her over the top compared to other scaling junglers though is that she can gank and skirmish much better throughout the early game. The catch range due to Bel'Veth's Q is absolutely disgusting and can allow for you to capitalize really well on the enemy's mispositioning. Outplay potential is also massive due to all the Q charges and makes Bel'Veth exceptionally strong into skill shot reliant champs. You're also able to build Bel'Veth full damage but still have that innate tankiness due to the damage reduction from E. Speaking of the build, it's a Kraken Slayer rush into Blade of the Ruined King 2nd and Death's Dance, Wit's End, or Rage Blade 3rd. As for the rune page, roll with Conquer, followed by Triumph, Alacrity, and Coup de Grace. Freeboots and Cosmic Insight are the best secondaries. When it comes down to a spam ganking jungler for the lower ranks, nobody does it better than Rammus. Rammus' ganks are just so easy to pull off, as Q with Ghost popped allows you to reach your target, while the point-and-click CC from E provides guaranteed lockdown. Since low elo games tend to last longer, Rammus has the ability to outscale so many of the AD heavy comps you see so often. Low elo players love their Yasuo and Yone, while Yi and Lee Sin are played a ton in the jungle, so it's very common for the enemy comp to have multiple physical damage threats. Since Rammus' passive converts 10% of his armor into bonus on-hit magic damage, being able to stack armor not only makes him tanky, but provides a considerable amount of damage. Instead of running Flash, look to run Ghost for more consistent early gank power. By running Ghost, you can also bypass Turbo Chem Tank and run Sunfire Aegis for more durability and damage. After Sunfire, Thornmail works great second, followed by Deadman's or Force of Nature third. Rune Page is Aftershock with Font of Life, Conditioning, and Unflinching. Grab Triumph and Alacrity for secondaries. If you like playing those champions who can force the issue and beat out most champs in the 1v1, then Udyr is the perfect jungler for you. It's been a few patches now since Udyr's mini rework, and he's becoming stronger and stronger each patch as everything becomes optimized. Literally all of Udyr's damage is point and click, so once you get the basic combos down, there are very little ways for you to mess up with the champ. A huge benefit to Udyr right now is the fact he can find success with so many different builds. Tank, Bruiser, and even Assassin are all viable options, which allows you to easily find something that fits your playstyle the best. Tank build is Sunfire into Demonic Embrace, and you'll be maxing R first with this setup. The Bruiser build is Trinity Force into Blade of the Ruined King, and a Q max is how you will want to play this one. The Assassin build is definitely a little more risky, and the one we would least recommend for the lower ranks, but it's an option nonetheless. As for the rune page, run Conqueror with Triumph, Tenacity, and Last Stand. If you're going Lethality Udyr, then Hail of Blades is the most optimal keystone. Celerity and Water Walking are great for secondaries. If you want to climb out of low elo from the mid lane, then simply start spamming Heimerdinger. Heimer is super easy to pick up, and you'll find success with him right away, as it takes no skill to use his turrets effectively. With that said, there are so many ways to maximize Heimer's potential, so you'll definitely be rewarded by spending time on the pick. Heimer is notorious for being able to pull off those 1v2 outplays, and it allows him to apply pressure better than most mid laners. If the enemy jungler doesn't gank, then you'll just have perma priority and deny the enemy a ton of farm by shoving them under tower. If the enemy jungler does gank, you have a really good chance of picking up a kill by playing around your turrets. Since most low elo players have difficulty last hitting under tower, being able to constantly shove them in will lead to you gaining massive gold leads every game. Let's be real here, the tilt factor that Heimer can apply is amazing as well, as it's not fun having to sit under tower, bleeding health and farm at the same time. Heimer's core build is a Liandry's Rush into Zanya 2nd and Rylai's 3rd. Keystone Rune is Comet, followed by Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Gathering Storm. Perfect timing and biscuits are what you should prioritize for secondaries. The second mid lane feature we have is going to be Swain. Swain is a phenomenal low elo pickup due to his immense teamfight presence and the ability to become super durable while being a consistent damage threat at the same time. It will take you a couple of games to get used to his E, but other than that, Swain is very straightforward. Landing Swain E is actually much easier in the lower ranks though, since players don't position nearly as well. Swain's laning phase isn't anything special, but it's not going to be punished in the majority of lower elo games. If you can reach your 2-item spike, then you're going to be impactful with Swain, and since low elo games last longer, it allows Swain to thrive. Since Swain wants those extended long-lasting fights, Conqueror is his best keystone, followed up with Resolve for secondaries. When it comes down to a reliable and consistently impactful mid laner, there are few who beat Malzahar for the lower ranks. A good portion of Malzahar's damage is point and click, which allows you to see immediate results when picking him up. Just by pressing R on the fed melee enemy is often enough to be more useful than the opposing mid laner. Although the learning curve is not very steep with Malz, he does have his weaknesses, which will take a bit of time to iron out. Malz's abilities have incredibly high mana costs early on, so learning to manage your mana pool is very key. First couple levels are pretty abysmal with Mouse, as you lack kill threat and possess an underwhelming skirmish. It's all about playing for that Lost Chapter buy, and if you can reach that point, everything becomes so much easier. On Lost Chapter buy, you can begin perma-pushing waves and play around your jungler to find catch plays with R. A little trick is to start the game with a mana crystal instead of Doran's Ring, so you can build into that Lost Chapter even faster. Liandry's follows for the rush item with Rylai's second and Demonic Embrace or Zhonya's third. For runes, pick up Aerie with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Gathering Storm. Optimal secondaries are Free Boots and Cosmic Insight. If you're looking to climb out a low elo from ADC, what are you even doing if Misfortune isn't a staple in your champion pool? MF is so broken right now, no matter the elo, as the recent transition from lethality over to crit has given her a huge boost in power. If the only thing you do throughout the game is press R in teamfights, you're going to be more impactful than the enemy ADC a large majority of the time. You can be first timing ADC and pick up a ton of wins with Misfortune, so her learning curve is not steep at all. There are a few nuances to MF though that makes her very rewarded if you put the time in. For example, Misfortune Q deals extra damage if you kill a minion before it bounces onto the enemy, so fishing for those in lane is a little mini game you play that can be very satisfying. Optimal Misfortune build is a Kraken Slayer rush into the Collector or Bloodthirster second and Infinity Edge third. Lethal Tempo and PTA are viable rune options right now. Press the attack is best when paired with an aggro support like Leona or Nautilus to maximize all-in power. Lethal Tempo is best when paired with an enchanter, where you'll be looking to come online the hardest in the mid-game. Misfortune is definitely who you should put highest priority on for ADC, but what if she's banned or picked away? In that case, having Tristana as a backup option is a really good plan. Tristana is one of the more self-sufficient ADCs who doesn't rely as heavily on her team to succeed, which translates really nicely into low elo games. The gap close with W combined with the knockback from R gives Tristana the ability to fend off dive champs better than any other ADC. Once you put the time into Tristana, this strong self-peel can also be flipped around and turned into a potent assassination combo. Knowing your limits and when to dive in for these aggressive plays will definitely take a bit of time though, but is highly rewarding in the end. Thanks to Tristana's passive, the more levels she gets, the longer her attack range becomes, so as these low elo games drag on for longer, Trist becomes that much more potent. Build for Tristana consists of a Kraken Slayer rush into Phantom Dancer second and Infinity Edge third. For runes, roll with Hail of Blades as the keystone, followed by Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collector, and Treasure Hunter. Optimal secondaries are Triumph and Bloodline. The easiest way to climb out a low elo from the bot lane is not actually by playing a traditional ADC, but locking in Seraphine instead. Playing carry Seraphine is super free because you're always relevant no matter the outcome of the laning phase. With traditional ADCs, if you die a few times in lane or are behind the enemy ADC, your impact is going to be so weak in the mid game. After all, the only way most ADCs can contribute to the game is by dealing damage from autos, so if they don't have items, they don't really do anything. This is why playing a utility enchanter like Seraphine is so reliable, because it doesn't matter how ahead or behind you are, you're always useful. You could be 0-5, inting the entire game, hit that one nice multi-man R in a team fight, and end up having more impact than the 5-0 Vayne. The build for Seraphine is Liandry's rush into Archangel's second and Rylai's third. Run Aerie as the keystone with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch. Secondary page consists of Bone Plating and Revitalize. This champion is god tier in every single elo bracket at the moment, as Amumu kicks off our top 3 for support. The learning curve is slightly more steep with Amumu in comparison to all the other picks in the video, but he's so OP in meta that it doesn't really matter. What other support gets 2 shots at hitting their long-range engage spell? The 2 Q charges actually make Amumu more forgiving than many other pick supports, as you have multiple opportunities to find that engage. When playing around minion waves, the range in which Amumu can catch a target out is completely insane, since he can use his first Q on the wave and then follow with the second on the enemy. Strong teamfight supports are the way to go for the lower elos, and Amumu is one of the best. The build for Amumu is an Even Shroud rush into Zhonya's second and Thornmail third. Grab Aftershock as the keystone with Font of Life, Bone Plating, and Unflinching. Cheap Shot and Ultimate Hunter are optimal secondaries. Another support who's an excellent low elo pick but can thrive no matter the MMR bracket is Maokai. Maokai has become a powerful pick in 3 different roles post-mini rework, as his reliable lockdown is extremely valuable for solo queue. Definitely look to side with Maokai over Amumu if you want to find that support who can provide instant results, as it takes no skill to land Maokai's CC combo. The only thing that takes a bit of time to get used to is utilizing the correct angle on Q to either knock the enemy into your team or away depending on the situation. Even then, it's not something that's mechanically demanding at all. If you really want to accelerate the low elo climb, then duo up with an ADC who can play MF, Samira, or Tristana. As long as you can sync up with your ADC and are on the same page to when you're looking to engage, The all-in power of Maokai is menacing. You don't actually rush a mythic item on Maokai, as Deadman's Plate is the rush, followed by Even Shroud second and Wardstone third. Aftershock is the keystone with Font of Life, Bone Plating, and Unflinching. For secondaries, grab Hex Flash and Cosmic Insight. Don't like melee engaged supports and want to play a ranged carry? Zyra is an amazing option then. To escape low elo the fastest, it's paramount you play a champion that can get the job done without needing major help from their ADC. Zyra can do exactly that, as her combo at level 6 can 100 to 0 the enemy squishy without needing your ADC to do anything at all. Few other sports can do this, which is a big reason why we like Zyra so much for low elo. Zyra also scales really well with items, so the longer games last and the more team fights that break out, the greater chance you can solo win games on the pick. If you can reach Leandries with Rylai's and Demonic Embrace, then the amount of damage you can deal is disgusting. For runes, pick up Comet as the keystone with Mana Flow, Transcendence, and Scorch. Taste of Blood and Relentless Hunter are the best secondaries. Alright guys, before we wrap this up, let's tell you a little more about SkillCapped. So, we offer a 5-division rank up guarantee, and think that's a pretty crazy thing to offer. It's like a gym membership guaranteeing you'll get ripped. Your local gym would go bust if they offered that, right? Not us. We've offered this for years because our service really does work. It works so well, in fact, that we're able to produce by far the largest catalog of premium league guides on the internet. We add over 20 videos a week, with over 1,600 guides curated into over 100 courses no one can compare. We've also sent challenger players into ELO hell 714 times and counting, where they commentate how to carry live. They also respond to all questions asked. So that's going to be all for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. Good luck with your end of season ranked climbs, and we will see you back soon.